The following program contains views that are not those of WVTC, iNetworks Communications, their subsidiaries, affiliates, or financial supporters.
Winning victory through Christ, WVTC Allsip Chicago, an iNetworks communication station.
Come on, Chicago, make some noise. MAPC. You know whether I'm right. You know, Lord, whether I'm wrong. Yeah, you whether I'm right or wrong. Yeah, yeah. You know whether I'm right. You know, Lord.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, good whatever it is, wherever you are. LaDonna here of Our Journey, and I am here to provide you with some information about mental health. What we do is we dive into particular topics each week to identify resources, information that may be helpful to us, okay, or helpful to individuals. And so, a little bit about me. I am a licensed clinical social worker here in the state of Illinois, amongst a few other states. And typically we just dive into topics, okay? Today, we are in the month of February, and I would like to pause for us to have an opportunity to gather some resources, some information, and a little bit of history. Since it is February, that means it's also Black History Month, and us being able to identify some historians, be able to identify the roots of mental health is definitely important. So, why not pause and do it today? So, what we're going to do today, I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview. We're going to start at the top with identifying some individuals who are pioneers in mental health in the African American or the Black community. And then from there, what we're going to do is go ahead and navigate and identify some resources that may be helpful for everyone, but in particular, we're going to identify some resources that may be helpful for Black individuals. Okay. I felt that this is something that is helpful primarily as a typical, right? It's something that comes up in sessions, and that's why I bring the information here. That's generally how we gather our topics based upon the work that I do with individuals on a daily basis. Okay. And so and do that. We're going to get us some resources and then we'll be done. We're not going to be here very, very long, but we're going to get some information so that way we can be helpful. Okay. And so the first individual or couple that I would like to discuss or talk about is Dr. and Dr. Mamie Phipps Clark, as well as Kenneth Bancroft Clark. Okay, and so these individuals, this couple, right? So they were able to be pioneers, really for us in navigating what part of mental health looks like. Okay. And so they're best known really for the doll study. So you probably read about it, especially if you are navigating anywhere within like a psychology class, or maybe you just gathering information. But theirs was the doll study. So basically, what they did was they had the 200, a little bit more than 200 Black children participate in the study, and so they both worked on it, right? And so what it looks like was it was the brown doll versus kind of the other doll, and was asking them really about what they looked like, right? What they felt would look nice, or what they felt looked beautiful, what they felt looked good, right? And this is something that was part of even the segregation study. So this was also helpful in the Brown versus Board of Education case, right? The Supreme Court case that we were able to gather. So it was really actually used as far as proof for segregation, kind of the need for that being ended, right? Ending the school segregation, because it was psychologically harmful for Black individuals and particular to really kind of continue to look at themselves, right? And so school segregation was particularly harmful, and they were the ones who were able to provide some additional evidence in that Supreme Court case, or they were able to provide this research study, the doll study, in that case, right? And being able to navigate. And so that is particularly important because I don't know if you've been to schools lately or been able to go to places, but now there is some integration, right? There's integration. It's legal. We all know kind of the outcome of Brown versus the Board of Education, but we do like to think and highlight that study as being part of changing and navigating the hearts and minds of individuals based upon that psychological research that they were able to gather and prepare for us. And that's a basis that we're able to use or utilize even among us now, as we are kind of navigating some things, especially when I'm working with some adolescents and looking to see how image is viewed and what type of spaces that we are kind of putting our youth into. Okay. And so the next individual who I would like to really talk about is Dr. Linda James Myers, right? Or Linda James Myers, PhD, right? And so she specializes in psychology, culture, moral, and spirituality, identity, and development. And she's really known for the healing practices and the psychotherapeutic process, and really how those navigate and how they work together. as well as really keying in the intersection of race. So, how spirituality, race, and therapy really can navigate together with gender and class. Okay, being able to navigate what that looks like. She did the model of human functioning and looking at the really how the transdisciplinary focus on the insights of how deep the African traditions, as well as thoughts and things can really be processed. Okay. And so, really, her work has informed how things at the intersections navigate. Oftentimes, we silo individuals, or we may look at individuals as being particular beings and not really holistically looking at the person. And so her work was a work that was really looked at, and we kind of look at the work as being the model of how we should integrate work. There's been several works that's been done since her work, since her research, but being able to know that that's where things get started at, that's where we really were able to draw from and then go from there. Okay. And so the next person who I'd like to identify or kind of talk about is E. Childs. So Dr. E. Childs, being able to know and navigate what things look like. And primarily, Dr. Childs was a child, as a clinical psychologist, being able to navigate and know. And so, really, as a psychologist, they were an advocate for gay and lesbian rights and the legislation, and all the way dating back to 1973. She was a feminist. She was able to navigate really a lot at the intersections, being able to be a Black woman, being able to navigate and do some of the work, right? And to be able to the work that she was a lot of that she was doing was identifying or really doing a lot of advocating with the American Psychological Association with their views towards homosexuality, navigating that, and being able to move. Primarily, what I'd like to highlight her work of being an advocate, being a feminist. She's also one of the founding members of the Chicago's Gay and Liberation Front, and being able to move and navigate through her practice and being able to provide a safe space for individuals, okay, and being able to be of support, okay. The next individual who I found particularly helpful or particularly um, a pioneer, right, or a person who was a trailblazer in the space, especially for Blacks or African Americans in mental health, is Bibi Moore Campbell. And so she was an author, a journalist, a teacher, and an all around mental health advocate, right? And so she did a lot of that fighting, that advocating, that really advocating and dedicating her work to highlighting or to inspiring individuals seeking mental health and really taking down some of those things that were strongholds or maybe deterrents of individuals seeking mental health, or that the stigma that was placed there. She used her work to shed light on the needs of the Black community or in other underrepresented individuals. She also was the founder of NAMI Inglewood. And so, what NAMI is an organization that really advocates and brings insight to um, mental health issues, mental health concerns, mental health advocacy, and being able to navigate from there. Okay. It's a predominantly Black community or neighborhood. And it created a space for Black people to really talk about mental health issues, and the concerns. And as she was advocating, as she was working, as she was doing things, she decided to not just do things at a local or regional area. She decided to go and take things to the national level, to even our nation's capital, to Washington, D.C. Okay. And so they were formally able to uh, not nominate and recognize the National Minority Mental Health Awareness Month. That's now bringing struggles of minority individuals to the forefront because of her advocacy. We would not have necessarily had a month that minorities could even just celebrate mental health, right? And be able to provide some advocacy and be able to provide some work or some information during that month. What that month typically looks like is a lot of the education, a lot of the advocacy, a lot of the introducing to resources, and being able to get set forth. So this year you'll have a little bit of a head start prior to the National Minority Mental Health Month, giving you a few months head start so you can get some information or you can gather some tools. So that way you are able to get off to the right track or off to something that is beneficial. Okay. And so, just diving a little deeper as I take a pause into why I am really diving into and highlighting these individuals is primarily because, yes, it is our history. Yes, it is Black history, and it's part of history for mental health in general. But also highlighting and providing information because oftentimes we set ourselves to the side, or maybe we say that mental health isn't necessarily for Black individuals, or mental health is not a Black person thing. And so, what I wanted to do was highlight even the work and the research, though we have a long ways to go, right? I'm not saying that we are exactly in a wonderful, most perfect scenario, but we are in a space where we can gather, identify things that are going on, and then be able to move forward or push past what's going on. Okay. And so, that was definitely a question or a thing that was brought up as I was seeing a couple, maybe I think end of last week or something like that. And so a little bit frustrated, a partner of the couple, was a little frustrated by like, why? Like, this not for us. Like, why you even signed us up for this? All right. And so being able to navigate, I typically ask the partners, and the partner did say yes. My partner knows that I'm coming to this, and then partner A signed up with partner for therapy for couples, and they showed up, and partner B did not know they was going to therapy. So it was quite an interesting thing, and it became a discussion or a talk about how therapy isn't appropriate for Black people. Black people were never in any place of creating therapy or mental health techniques because it's not a space. And so I said, well, let's get to gathering some resources so that way we can shed some light. All right. Not necessarily being defensive, but more so being providing some of that education and some additional resources. Okay, so we're going to take a quick pause. When we come back, we're going to dive back into gathering some more information, just becoming educated on individuals who have really paved the way for us to be where we are as far as mental health, as research, advocacy, and education. And then after we're done kind of highlighting a few more, what we'll do is gather some resources. Maybe if you're not connected to therapy, if you're not connected to mental health resources, and you said, you know what, that's probably one of your New Year's resolutions. That's okay. New Year, just start off in February. It's okay. That was January was your trial month. We're going to gather some resources so that way you can identify some services that may be of help for you. Okay, hang tight. We'll be back.
People say you can't. Other people's opinions don't let them change your plans. Know that God has put something inside you. Let go and let him work. He's not a quitter, so don't you dare quit. You just keep doing, and expect to see a miracle. My friend, keep doing. Much stronger than you. Your burdens he'll bear. Just know that he's waiting on you to cast all your cares. Be confident that he won't leave you. Exercise your faith in God. You see, he's not a quitter, so don't you dare quit. You just keep doing what you got to do. My friend, you can make it. Yeah. You see, the devil will try his best, but don't let him get inside your head. I know it's easier said than done, but you gotta believe that you are stronger and you're wiser than in your past. So you just hold your head up high, and even when you fall, it's alright if you sometimes cry. Don't you dare, you just gotta know that everywhere you go, God will never leave you alone. No, he won't. You have come too far to turn back now, so you gotta keep on walking, keep on pushing, keep on trusting, keep on believing, keep on. God will never leave you. No, he won't.
Right. Welcome back. So this is our journey. We are diving into identifying really the pioneers of Black mental health, the pioneers of mental health who happen to be Black. However, you want to phrase it, being able to identify that there is a space there that we can be welcome, that we can be able to move forward. Okay. And so today we are just gathering that information, gathering being some education, as we typically do, right? Every week is an educational week, but sometimes we navigate and process through particular kind of diagnoses or mental health concerns. And today we are highlighting information, highlighting individuals who are really the pioneers and founders of part of the mental health basis that we have here in the US and really global wide, right? Globally. So after we get through this, the last few individuals will then gather some information as to some resources that could be useful. Okay. So the next person who I'd like to talk about or highlight is Francis Cecil Summer. So Dr. Summer. and being able to navigate and do something. So we oftentimes call him the father of Black psychology. He's really used as the father of Black psychology. We typically give him that name primarily because he's the first Black man to receive a PhD in psychology, being able to navigate, being able to know and to understand despite some obstacles that he faced. He's notable and remarkable because um, he was first accepted into the program at Clark University, but then he had to be drafted to serve in World War I. And but when he got back, he continued to persevere. He continued to work, completing that dissertation, which is that research that you need to complete the degree. And upon graduation, he was able to still do several articles, do lots of research, not just for Black individuals, but for everyone, being able to research and highlight some things of his time that were important as he's taken such a large step into pursuing not just the degree, but pursuing the kind of that dream that he had and being able to go forward and to continue to move despite some challenges that may come up for him. Okay, that came up for him, and being able to move forward. Okay, the next person is Dr. James P. Comer. Okay, now he's internationally known. Okay, primarily because of the Comer School of Development, which was founded in 1968. So it's an educational system that focus on child development and inner city schools. And so part of this is a lot of ways in which we root or have the basis of how child development is integrated into the early childhood instead of just kind of just plopping in just whatever thoughts or knowledge. He really focused and honed in on what things should look like or how child development is important into incorporating and having knowledge about and moving forward as far as schooling, school age, and what is appropriate as far as the developments according to the age. Okay. What's most notable about him is that in 2014, Dr. Comer he received a prestigious nomination by President Barack Obama to serve on the President's Commission on Educational Excellence for African Americans. So he had an opportunity to then even sit years after the original research was set up, the original school was set up, and the development and integration. So now even recent works, recent ways in which education has been set up to navigate has been gathered to be incorporated into what things should look like, okay, and how things should look as far as the child development and schooling. Okay, so that's something that is important. It was important then, it was notable then, and it's still been even notable for us now. Okay. The next individual who I'd like to discuss, highlight, shout out, or however you want to put it, is Dr. Beverly Daniel Tatum. And so she is the author of a book that you probably were recommended to read or you read. I know that it was a work that was definitely popular as I was an undergrad, though I read it before then, but it was something that was popular and it was on our recommended reading list. And it is Why Are All the Black Kids Sitting Together in the Cafeteria and Other Conversations About Race? Okay. And so in the book, I don't want to kind of give it all away because I do encourage you to read that book. If you haven't read the book, I am going to I'll place it here for us, kind of a link to get the book. So that way it's something that's important or something that is helpful for us to read and review through. But in the book, what it highlights is identifying why once we're maybe integrated, right, as after schools were integrated, after individuals were Black youth, Black children were in spaces with other races and other individuals, um, why do they all sit and gather together? The psychology behind what was going on, the psychology behind kind of gathering together, feeling comfortable, feeling in a safe space. And so this is one of many of the works that really it was helpful or is helpful in looking at the American education system. And so I know that I had it in some education classes, I had it in some sociology classes. It was something that was definitely a recommended read or even a required read, depending upon the exact class. And so her tireless efforts, her work really in psychology and the social issues in the education system really earned her the American Psychological Association Award for Outstanding Lifetime Contribution. And so she got that in I know I think it's 2013 or 14. I think it's 2014. Sorry, I'm trying to go from memory for a lot of this stuff. I typically put some bullet points and then just go from there, which is good for mental health topics, right? Because I talk that in and out every single day. But when I wanted to give you some historical context, some historical individuals, I know their names, know a lot of the information, and then got to look back at the notes for really gathering some specific key points, right? So I think that it was, give me a second. Yeah, 2014. So she received that award. Okay. And that's definitely something that's notable. Notable as a woman receiving the award, as well as being notable that a Black woman was able to receive that award. Okay, and so the research and the work is definitely awesome. Um, I really enjoyed the book. It reads like a novel-ish. Okay, it's really good. You don't have to be a mental health professional or education professional in order to read through that book. And it's definitely something that you can probably take away that you might not have looked at prior to reading the book. That's just how spot on and head on that is. So the research is great. The works that she's contributed to education and psychology has been helpful, and it's remarkable that she was able to even receive that award. Okay, and so the next person who I'd like to discuss or talk about is Robert Lee Williams II. And so he was the creator of the Black intelligence test of cultural homogeneity. Okay, and so this intelligence test is specifically oriented towards the Black experience, Black language, shattering the notion that Black people had um, really lower than average intelligence as compared to white individuals. Okay, and so looking at the IQ test, so you can really just say this was like an IQ test for Black people. But what he was doing, or what he was testing, or showing with this test that he created, this instrument that he created, was that it's not that when tested on IQ levels or IQ is that Black people have lower IQ. It was more so the information, the Black experience was not yielded to be able to answer some of those particular questions that were placed there on a traditional IQ test. Okay, and so it's primarily in a traditional IQ test. Those were typically favorable results, or test scores were favorable for white individuals, and not necessarily the most favorable for Black individuals. And so this was a tool or instrument that he created. Okay, and so what his other works or his other things is that he worked as a staff psychologist for the Arkansas State Hospital. He's able to navigate and really work through that hospital system, and was the first African American psychologist to be hired at any state level mental health institution or mental health facility in the state of Arkansas. So that is definitely notable, primarily not just for that state, but being able to break the racial boundaries to hire on even the Black individuals. And I primarily chose to highlight and to discuss him here because oftentimes we're not seeing ourselves in spaces, right? Especially as Black people, we may not see ourselves in spaces. Excuse me. And it took me a while to even identify or to find a Black therapist for me, right? Wanted someone who maybe have some of the same lived experiences, though in theory or in actuality, it wouldn't necessarily make a difference as far as clinically how the person can listen, how a person can provide information. But maybe a little bit different and a little bit of a nuance, which is why I show up every day, being able to know that some experiences are maybe some shared experiences. Some experiences you may not have to explain, and you may feel a little bit more comfortable. And I hear it all the time. I'm just looking for a Black female therapist because that was something that is important to me. And so for me, I've had different therapists throughout my lifetime, being able to navigate. 'Cause I'm a strong proponent for therapy, even before I was a therapist. Believe everyone should have therapy, even if you've identified maybe there's nothing necessarily wrong. Absolutely. So you go to therapy before you get a problem. So that way you're able to gather healthy coping mechanisms if something comes up for you. Really, not even the if. When something comes up for you, you're able to strategize and navigate without maybe necessarily having some concerns that you would have had prior to not having those toolkits, right? Just like kind of in the home, when you move in, you go ahead and you get you a toolbox. You may not have something to fix at that particular time, but you have a toolbox that's set up for you just in case, right? That just in case emergency kit, or like the emergency kit that we put together with the snacks, the flashlights, maybe a pair of socks, some underwear, the little thing that you put in a one little space in the house, or maybe you carry it in your car as well. And they typically tell us in the Midwest, carry this just in case a snowstorm come or you're stopped on the road and you need something with some little snacks. That's what therapy's like. You sign up, you get you some. You create a toolbox with all the different like coping mechanisms, some things that you may need. And then when the thing comes up, you start unpacking and say, you know what am I supposed to do when this thing comes up for me? Not necessarily waiting for catastrophe or disaster or heartbreak or the end of life type of situations for individuals to come up, but you're more so creating that toolbox for yourself. You're setting some things up for yourself to then be able to move forward. That's definitely something that is helpful and being able to have, right, and being able to strategize. Okay, now I gotta go back and look at my notes because I forgot where I was going. I was giving a person. I just did Robert Lee. Let's see here. I think I'm gonna do the last one, and then we're gonna hop into a short little break. Okay, so let me just get some more water, get refreshed, and then we're gonna go straight into some resources. I'm gonna give you one more, the last one. If you didn't notice the pattern, I'm typically giving man, woman, primarily because it's equally balanced. There's lots of pioneers and individuals who I could have chosen. But I don't want to sit here and give us this a history lesson. I want to give us some education and then give us some resources as we typically do. So one more small break, then resources, and we're all done. Okay. And so the last person who I'd like to identify or give some information about and highlight during this segment is Dr. Harriet Pipes McAdoo. Okay, and so she worked well with her husband, being able to research. She worked on the Family Life project that looked at Black families in Washington D.C. that focused on middle class. Okay, and so her work that she did there for the Family Life project earned her a spot at the White House Conference on Families, and she was appointed by Jimmy Carter. But her work didn't necessarily stop after that project. She was able to inform some other research about Black families, looking at middle class. It also informed other studies who were able to intersect or identify class as well as race when looking into mental health concerns, when looking into even concerns. It was the first work that was that really challenged looking at the widely held and harmful racial stereotypes about Black families. It really looked into what things looked like for Black families. It looked into those stereotypes or the stereotypical what Black families should be or maybe what they are based upon that race or class, and being able to set a playing field or a level playing field for individuals to be able to move and thrive forward. Okay, so now we'll take a pause because I need some more water and I want to prepare and put up the set of notes that I'm going to use to give us all the resources. Usually we're going to need some paper and pencil for this right here, because I'm going to be giving out phone numbers, email addresses, and websites at this point. So this is the part where you're going to need to definitely jot down some notes, because this is our resource segment. So give us a couple moments, take a little break, grab your notebook, listen to some music, and then we'll be all set.
Listen, we've been through so much, but God is still in control. Yep. Rock with me. Listen, no matter what you're going through, God's gonna work it out. Listen. So you don't know what to do, your dollar bills are few and the rent is due. Baby girl, don't worry about a thing. God will work it out, yeah. Brother, doing the best he can to be a family man. Y'all don't understand. And he's wondering if we'll make it through. Know that God will work it out for you. Don't you worry about a thing. God's in control of everything. God's in control of everything. Work out, everything will work out fine. Yeah. Be encouraged. Everything will
right. Welcome back. This is our journey. We are here identifying now some resources that can be used for everyone. I am going to particularly highlight resources that are available for Black individuals or minority individuals. Some of the resources are maybe dual purpose, but this is something that's sometimes a little bit difficult to identify. So I want to check the phone numbers first, check the websites, check out the apps. These are resources that I typically use to refer clients to. Some of the resources are resources that I've created or may even be um, my contact information. Okay. So I'm going to give some resources that are some phone numbers, some general ones that are maybe for everyone, like some hotlines. Just a few, not gonna bog us down with a lot of them. So I told you, y'all got to write this stuff down. And then some places that maybe you can identify some self-help resources. So some apps, some books, some tools. And then I'm going to give some phone numbers or some places that you can identify some therapy. Okay. If therapy is the thing that you are looking for, I told y'all I recommend everybody have therapy. But I'm not going to go on my rants on my soapbox about that again because I've already done it in this segment. Okay. It's definitely something that is exciting for me. Okay. And I want to make it um, accessible or helpful to all of us. Okay. And so the first phone number or first resource that I would like to give us is the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. So the suicide hotline is typically what it's called. That's what people are typically hearing. So I'm going to give you the long form phone number. We're all aware that we can use 988 now, but I want to give us the long form phone number in case you're maybe not necessarily um, able to identify or to kind of have that. If you want the long form phone number, it's 800-273-8255. Okay. And so I'm wanting us to be mindful, maybe share that number. If you're experiencing those suicidal thoughts, definitely be able to have some resources. So again, that phone number, it's 800-273-8255. It's not an emergency number where they're going to send somebody out to come grab you or something like that. It is a line in which you're able to talk through some things, especially if you are uh, feeling as if you are having those suicidal thoughts. Okay, that's definitely something that is helpful or would be helpful for everyone. Okay, and so of course we have 988. That is the number, right? That is a crisis line. That is the new crisis, suicide and crisis lifeline. We're able to use that number. We're able to navigate um, really from that number of how to get some help, and it will operate the same way. I typically recommend just dialing 988 instead of the long form phone number, but I have some people who are a little stuck on one of the long form phone number. But 988 would also give us to the same type of number. Okay. I also like to provide or give the National LGBT Hotline. So that's 888-843-4564. Again, that's 888-843-4564. Okay. Being able to navigate and to work through that. I also like to give us the National Domestic Violence Hotline. That's 800-799-7233. Again, that's 800-799-7233. Okay. Being able to navigate and work through some things. I'm going to give you the Hope Line. The Hope Line is a number that typically I recommend or have in kind of tell my clients to store it in their cell phone, primarily for when you're not able to talk to me, not necessarily you're having suicidal thoughts. you might just be a little anxious or something is going on. You're a little bit hopeless, helpless, needing someone to process something through, and your friends who you typically talk to, they are unavailable. This is the unavailable person kind of phone number, but you're not necessarily in crisis. In a crisis, we're going to dial 911. Okay. If you've maybe attempted or needing a little bit more of that direct help. But the Hope Line, that number is 800-784-2433. Again, that's 800-784-2433. Okay. I do know that the show, this segment is viewed or listened to nation wide as well as internationally. These are numbers that are utilized for inside the U.S. So sorry for our international users or listeners. I started up top with giving us the hotlines or some larger numbers, primarily because everyone may not be in the Chicagoland area. Everyone may not be even in a region that I'm able to identify some local or nuanced resources. What I'm going to hop into now is a little bit of some resources that may be helpful for our Chicago or Chicagoland listeners or viewers. And then I'll also go ahead and give some additional resources for um, sites and apps that may be helpful for us to navigate through to identify some resources. Okay. And so I like to really highlight the YMCA Chicago Wellness Network. Okay. And so their phone number is 773-302-2049 to be able to identify some resources. I also like Sister Athia. So their phone number is 773-234-7994. That organization is primarily set for identifying resources for African Americans, Black individuals. If you're not able to identify individual therapy, if there's maybe a waiting list, which sometimes it is, it's not typically long. They do offer groups and additional resources to connect you with services. So they are located in Chicago on the south side of the city, or the southeast side of the city. And a resource I can provide you with the resource for myself for some low cost services, right? We do accept insurance, myself as well as other staff members I have on staff or interns. We do accept insurance as well as sliding scale for some of our services. So you may see services we're not accepting your insurance, or maybe you're uninsured or underinsured. We can provide you with some services based upon your income or based upon your need. And sometimes we do have some donors or some business partners who donate free therapy. I do know that we have, I think we may have 2 vouchers that are left for some free therapy sessions, okay, for those who need it. So we can be reached at 773-372-8880. Okay, that's definitely something that I personally go out to find friends, find donors. So that way, my staff members, like I enjoy doing some volunteer work or being able to help the community. However, being able to make sure that my staff have the financial resources so that way they can operate and navigate things for their family. It is important for us as a team, right, to have a little bit of a balance. I go out to seek individuals to provide us with some services. Okay, so those are some local things. More on a national level, I enjoy a couple different apps. One that is helpful is the Safe Place. Okay, that one is geared toward. You can find that in your app store. Okay, it kind of look like this when you open it, being able to navigate what it is. Okay, and so it is an app. It has lots of different resources. and information of being able to navigate what things look like. Okay. Now, the app was primarily created for to be a space for minority individuals, primarily African American individuals, to bring awareness, education, and hope. So if you're not necessarily able to um, get access to some therapy, or maybe that's not something that you're looking for right now, they're able to have different topics, some self-care topics, some understanding of religion and mental health, the church and mental health, exercise, meditation, some things that just may be overall helpful to your mental health, even if there's not something that's necessarily going on for you that you're identifying that maybe you'd want some help. Okay. A national resource that I encourage everyone to go to is Therapy for Black Girls. So if you're that's a directory listed there, as well as many of my clinicians, primarily serving and identifying therapy for Black girls. So it is a network of Black therapists, female therapists, primarily to female identifying therapists, to provide those resources or the help that you may be looking for. So you can browse through, look at the pictures, look at a little bio, have an opportunity to see what is really available to you. I'd encourage individuals, you can look at the Clinicians of Color directory. So it's a little bit more broad for all clinicians of color who you can, it's a directory. You pick the state, the area that you're looking for therapists in, and get to scrolling, get to finding some resources. So it's just another directory that's definitely helpful for us in navigating, looking for really resources, okay, or looking for therapy instead of maybe just trying to Google search. I do know now it's something that's a little bit different and helpful, that Psychology Today has given us a little bit of some help in identifying ways to kind of search or browse looking for Black or African American therapists. So you can utilize the site Psychology Today and use the filter option to identify Black or African American therapists, or any other type of filters if you have a diagnosis, if you're maybe wanting them to have a particular specialty or something that you're concerned about. That is another resource that is free. You can identify the insurances that they accept, maybe where they're located, and things of that sort, their contact information. Okay, and so that is widely open and available to you online. Okay, so those are the resources. You all know exactly kind of how we are able to navigate. So we will be back next week with some additional mental health topics for us to dive into. I do hope that this was something that was educational and uplifting, to know that there is help. We do have a space in mental health, and to be inspired. Hope all is well with everyone, and we'll see you next week.
Views made on the preceding program are not those of WVTC Radio, iNetworks Communications, or their financial supporters.
Winning victory through Christ.